Nancy, did we hear anything from Colin?
He sent an email earlier because in the week that he had questions, but no, I haven't heard from him that he would not be here. But we can get started, and if for some reason he doesn't show up, then Amy can come sit up.
Quarter after, 20 after, something like that. We can have Amy come up. Should we give him half an hour? It's
your call if you want to wait and see if Colin shows up in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, let's do 15 minutes and we'll have Amy start.
And if not, Amy can come and I'll flip her thing out. Okay.
All right. It is 6:30. It's May 6th. Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the City of Englewood. I call this meeting to order.
All right. Mr. Haggerty is not here yet. Ms. Austin?
Here.
Mr. Montiel?
Here.
Mr. Ruddle?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Adams?
Here.
Ms. Hubka?
Present.
Mr. Renson?
Here.
Mr. Kaplan?
Here.
Amy, I'm just going to have you. Thank you. And Chair Martinez?
Here.
Quorum is present.
All right, thank you. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from April 8th. Anybody have any comments, corrections, anything to discuss about the minutes? All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
All right, get a vote.
Ms. Austin?
Approved. Yes.
Mr. Montiel?
Yes.
Mr. Ruddle?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Hubka?
Aye.
Mr. Renson?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Aye.
Chair Martinez?
Abstain.
And Ms. Cicero? Aye. Thank you. Okay, motion passes. I do not see anyone online for public comment.
Okay.
And everyone in the audience is here to...
Seeing nobody here for public forum, we'll move on to case 2025-04, the capital improvement projects. So Ms. Nolan.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Jenny Nolan. I'm the budget manager for the City of Englewood. So I'm going to go over the prioritization tool that we discussed at our April 14th meeting, and then I'll answer any questions you might have after the presentation. So the workbook that you have in front of you consists of several tabs, and I will just be going over a few of those tabs this evening. But if you want me to go over all of them, I'm more than happy to. So the first tab is called Instructions. What we'd like for you to do is make sure once you get a copy of the prioritization tool, you make a copy of this Excel workbook onto your desktop. And maybe add your initials at the back end or the front end of the title of the workbook, just so that we can identify each of the workbooks from each of the members. Step 2, we're going to ask you to enter in your name in column C, row 1 of the 30-PIF tab, and I'll show you where that is in just a moment. And then based on your understanding of the capital requests from your review of the draft CIP document, the presentations that directors made back on April 14th, as well as any additional questions that you might have answered this evening, you'll be able to then score the various projects based on the criteria that are given in tabs 30-PIF and 31 CPF. So the tab just next to the instructions is just the overall view of all the capital requests that you'll be scoring. The first section is just general information about the project, the fund that is providing the monies for that particular capital request, the department requesting the capital request, the capital item title, whether that project is a program or a project, and the priority, whether it's a tier 1, tier 2, Tier 1 is urgent need. Basically, they need funding within the next year. A Tier 2 indicates a high priority, meaning we need funding within 2 years. Tier 3, funding within 3 years. Tier 4, 4 years. And we don't have any more beyond 4 years because Tier 4 is a low priority. So then the next section on this spreadsheet is the financial activity that we have on certain ongoing programs. So you'll see if we've had any spending in 2024, I've provided the 2024 unaudited expenditure amount next to the project. The 2025 approved budget, and if we've made any expenditures January through March of this year, that information is also provided. The next section is just for your note-taking. If you were to, lower a funding request or increase a funding request, you could see the impact of that. We basically have $7 million and around $9 million of Tier 1 capital requests. So we'll need to make some concessions on some of these capital requests that are brought forth for you to look at tonight. Section 3 is just a consolidated view of the 5-year capital request funding. And then Section 4 is the department weighted scores for each of the projects and programs. And then Section 5 will be the information linked that your scoring that's linked from the next two tabs, tab 30-PIF and 31-CPF. So that information will just automatically link to this as soon as you provide your scores. So the third tab is all the capital requests out of the Public Improvement Fund. And whether it's the capital or the Public Improvement Fund or the Capital Projects Fund, each of the projects and programs have these 10 criteria that you'll be scoring each of the requests. So the first criteria is the department ranking. Did the department rank it as a Tier 1, a Tier 2, or a Tier 3? And then you'll provide the score that's associated with that criteria. Whether or not it's an infrastructure project, a safety project, and then whether or not the department provided information of, how it impacts safety. Sorry. And then the next one is transportation. I'm on this. And then again, you'll have 3 scores. Is there an immediate asset replacement? Has the capital item reached its useful life? Is this capital request a repair? Or can this repair be deferred up to 2 years? Again, you'll glean all this information from the information provided in the CIP document, as well as the presentations the department directors provided. Bless you. Economic impact. And again, you have the description of what each of those scores represent. Again, some of the projects have also provided you additional information how this impacts the local economy. Next one is urgency. Again, a 3 means, again, the project is or the capital asset is in such a condition that it needs to be replaced immediately. Project use, is this particular project or this capital asset used by the public year-round, 5 to 11 months, or less than 5 months per year? The service level impact, does it improve a particular service that the city provides, or it has no impact on service level? operating impacts. What are the additional costs of this particular capital request on the operating budget? How much is it going to cost to maintain it? So you're getting to the total cost of ownership with this question. And again, some of the departments provided some explanation as to whether or not there's an operating impact for that capital request. And then the last criteria is leverages outside funding. Are there grant dollars associated with this particular capital request or private funding? And if so, you would score it higher than something that didn't have any additional funding sources available to it. So that is my presentation of the document.
And excuse me, Chair, I just heard from Mr. Haggerty, and he will not be able to attend tonight. So
Okay.
If Amy wants to come up, I'll flip her out.
And then just to, I did say I was going to mention where you actually enter your name. So it's in column C, row 1. And you'll just click on that cell and then just start entering in your name. Oops.
Okay, commission questions for Ms. Nolan. Go ahead.
And where do we put our score? Is that in column A?
Yes, actually it's going to be, for that first project, it's going to be in column F. And then the next column, it's going to, so it says score right below PIF 1. So you have the score, the weight, and then you have the total amount. And then for the second project, it's going to be in column J.
I see it now.
And then the
okay.
next column, it will be column N.
And those are the only editable cells, right? The rest are locked.
Correct.
You can only enter them in the scoring
Yep.
cells.
And then don't forget you have the second tab to the 31-CPF. It's these two funds that have the limited funding available to, for these capital requests.
Ms. Nolan, some of these criteria or some of the scoring is sort of objective. Like each project should, it's not subjective that we are going to define. So my question is there a scoring sheet that already has some of that populated? Like some of these projects have leveraged funding, some of them don't. Do we need to go in and just kind of do all that ourselves?
You have to do that yourselves, yeah.
Okay.
Just to
Okay.
make sure it's very objective and whether or not you were able to identify that, this information was provided,
Okay.
by the information.
And
department.
is it safe to assume, and I think I know the answer to this because I've already skimmed through, or I've already looked through the presentation, but in the presentations or in the pages that are given to us for each project, some of this information is in there, some of it may not be.
Correct.
Okay. Other questions, Ms. Nolan? Brenda?
Yeah, I know I did this last year, but still, it's been a year. I just want to make sure I understand that we're just giving it one score along one row in J. We're not going down and scoring it based on the rows.
No, we are.
You're
We are.
going to have
Down the whole
10
column.
scores per capital request.
You have how many?
10 scores
Okay,
per
then-
capital request.
Then the first score is how the department ranked it according to the row next to it, right?
Yes.
And we didn't pre-fill that out. We have to go look.
Correct.
Okay.
Ya. Ahora sí.
And if you and please provide me feedback. If there's some that you'd like me to pre-fill for next year, I'm more than happy to do that. I just didn't want anybody to think that we're going to just make this assumption.
Yeah, I do agree that I think some of those, like the department tier ranking, is already in the sheet. So having us score it again doesn't add a whole lot. I noticed that the infrastructure and transportation scoring criteria are described with the same words. I wanted to confirm that that's how it's supposed to be and not an error.
It's not an error. That's how
Okay.
it's supposed to be. Yep.
So I'm struggling with the idea that like there are 10 criteria and there's so much overlap, right? So an infrastructure project, could be a replacement at the end of life, or it could be not a repair, but something that is valuable to the community, net new. And on this, we'd give that a 0 because it's new and not an asset replacement. And then again, on transportation, we'd give it a 0 if it's something net new because it's not like that. There's so much of a thumb on the scale towards spending money to replace things that are aging. We have to score that kind of over and over again. And I don't see where we put in, more about that, like, just the value to the community of, if it is a replacement, does it need to be replaced, or is there something better that we could be doing? Or if it's something that's new, how do we indicate that value?
That's a very good point. And if we can encapsulate that, we can definitely look to improve the prioritization tool for next year. But as you might recall, we had infrastructure and transportation as one outcome a few years ago, and then it was broken into 2 separate outcome areas. So I think that is the reason why the criteria is the same. What you might want to do that might help you is when you're looking at the description in the capital improvement plan document, you'll see if a department has weighed a capital asset more on the infrastructure side or transportation. And if they weighed it more on the transportation, then you could lead your score. This is more of an infrastructure project rather than a transportation. But if it's 50-50, that's where it's going to be tricky. You'd probably give it the same or similar score. Or you'll score one and not the other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah, thank you for making this presentation, because I've done this at least once or twice, and it's a little, I'm glad you're here just to clear things up. So if I'm understanding this correctly, if you go to the yellow tab, the PIF and CPF requests, and you go to section 4, is that how the departments have already
Yes.
scored each individual item?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that helps me a lot. And so that might be somewhat of a guideline we would look to see, okay, staff is scoring this one higher or lower.
Yep.
Okay. And then if you go over another one and it has members score, my assumption is that when I can fill it in either here or on 30 PIF, or I have to do it on 30 PIF, and then it will automatically come into this part
Correct.
over here. Okay. I just
So
want to
yeah,
make
you
sure
want to be on those other tabs doing the scoring.
Right,
As soon as you
okay.
score, then that information will be linked to this front page.
Okay, but looking back to the yellow tab might be helpful for us when we're going through to score things, is what I'm hearing, because that's how the department has scored them, or Englewood scored it. Is that correct?
Yes, the information you have is the department score, the capital improvement document, where you can see the description and justification for the capital request. The
general government department weighted scores, that's Englewood's scoring, the department's scoring.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
That's from them specifically. Yep.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
You're welcome.
Noah.
On the section 2 of the second tab, with the financial activity from the past couple years, is there like a general way to interpret like what to take away if a line item has, no spending year to date, or has spending that is way over the budget year to date? Is there a general way to think about that, or is it going to be like just so case by case?
It's going to be a case by case. If they've had overspending in 2024, it may be that they had to delay this project a year, and so then they're getting caught up in 2024. If they have underspending, again, priorities could have been, I can't answer specifically to those. All I can give you is the dollar amount. I can only suppose that either other priorities took place and this wasn't as high because maybe they did more spending back in 2023. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But what I would probably look at is what if they did receive funding in 2025, you might then want to look at Section 3 and look at that 5-year request. Does it seem to be in line with what they're needing? And are they, at least in 2024, like this second project, which is the wayfinding and placemaking. So just by looking at 2024, they spent close to $100,000. They're getting another request in 2025 of $100,000, and they're requesting that $100,000. So it seems like they've got a plan. They anticipate spending about $100,000 per year. But I do see that one down on row 23, that $852,000. Oops. And that's for the pavement maintenance. And as you know, they also, the pavement maintenance has also the dedicated sales tax money. So they could be spending that dedicated sales tax money in the general fund operating budget. May not need as much this year, or depending on the area of town that they're paving, they do need more. So they're going to use that, what's dedicated in the general fund, plus the additional money that's been appropriated in the public improvement fund. Good, very good questions, yeah.
Michelle.
I forgot to ask. So we have $7 million basically to spend. And last year, I think I recall that we had somewhere along the line an extra $2 million or something kind of fell into our pocket. Is that not going to happen this year?
No, we have no additional unassigned fund balance, so we won't have any additional funding from the general fund.
Okay, so our goal is $7 million.
$7 million.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a couple of questions. For the benefit of all of us, could you just briefly define the difference between a project and a program?
So a project basically has a start date and an end date. It could be 1 year, it could span a couple of years, because if there's design and construction, so you might have a design phase, then a construction phase, but it's all one project. So it could take multiple years. But there's a definite start and end date to construct this asset. A program is maintaining an existing asset. So you're just trying to maintain that asset so that we haven't quite reached the useful life of it. We can patch it up a little bit longer, get another maybe year or two out of it before we absolutely say, no, this asset has reached its useful life.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then one other thing, could you just talk us through the process, start to finish? I mean, we're starting here with individual spreadsheets where we're doing our own scoring, but ultimately that gets consolidated into one recommendation from this body to council, correct?
Correct.
Could you just fill in any gaps or details or?
Sure. So after you all complete your scores, you'll send that information to Nancy Fenton. She'll then take your scores, and in that very last tab, you're going to see all of your scores. Oops, second to last tab where it says combined member scores. You'll see each member's scores. She's basically going to copy and paste the information on that second tab to this location. Then all of those scores will be summed up at the top, and then on the far right will determine the ranking based on whoever turns in their scores. It'll be the total divided by the number of entries that we have. And then once that's, I don't know when your next meeting is, but I think you'll have, Nancy will then provide you all with the combined scores, then you'll talk about that, and then at that point you'll look at the where the projects and programs land, and you'll say, you'll either agree or disagree as a body and say, no, I think we need to move this one up, or no, I think we need to move this one down, as a collective group, and then you'll provide that information in a memo to the city manager's office.
Great, thank you. That was the important piece, is that we're not all just putting our own scores in and it gets averaged. We are still having that conversation and negotiation, essentially, of coming up with a consensus scoring. Great.
Because as soon as you look at it, like, well, that just doesn't make sense.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Nolan? Oh yeah, sorry, Amy. We'll go Amy and then Eric.
I have the very basic question. You might have said it in the very beginning, but what is the 1 to 10, and which is the highest and the lowest?
For the 10 criteria?
For the scoring, for the way we score.
It's in the spreadsheet. Each category sort of they're not all 0 to 3. There's some that are 0 to 2.
Yeah.
But on the left-hand side is sort of the key for each
Got it. Okay.
criterion.
Okay.
Do you see
got
that?
it. I
Columns A through D will be where the criteria information is presented.
I do. Okay, thank you.
And then you'll carry your score across the top. So starting in row 6, you'll see the title of each of the project. And I tried to put in a blank column in between each one to hopefully guide the eyes a little bit better.
Eric. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Eric, did you have? Okay. Any others? All right. Thank you, Ms. Nolan.
I hope this is a little bit easier. I know it's an Excel document and it's my creation, so please, and you won't hurt my feelings. If you want something different, we can try to come up with something different, but this was the best I can come up with.
No, we really appreciate it. And I think Noah brought up some good points about sort of how the weighting actually happens. That is opportunities that we can talk about in the future, but this is.
Yeah, and I like the ideas of suggestions on changing the criteria, especially if there's a new request or a new asset. Maybe we score that a little bit higher.
Yeah. Okay.
But if we don't have it, and if we've lived without it, maybe we don't need it quite yet.
Yep.
So that's probably why it might be scored a low score, especially when you have to make trade-offs when we don't have all the funding available to us.
Great.
All right.
I just wanted to check in online. Stephen, any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Okay. Thank you
Ms.
for your
Nolan.
time.
The commission, I just wanted to kind of talk about the next sections that we have here. We're going to have some presentations from department heads talking about the projects that are in the packet that you received. They're here to answer questions, and we're going to focus kind of in order. So just try to keep that in mind, that it will be here all night if we're bouncing around in and out and topic to topic. So let's just focus on keeping the questions pertaining to the projects at hand. And with that, I believe Mr. Eisenberg is online.
Good evening. Joe Eisenbart. I'm the Director of IT, and I'm here to answer any questions you have on our project.
And I'm sorry, I'm just looking through the packet here. We are not necessarily in order in the PDF, are we?
On the screen, you're in order.
On the screen, we're in order. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
great. Okay.
So this project, and then I can get the clicker and flip it. Joe has 2. One is this one and the network development. So I'll go get it and I can flip the pages.
Got it. Okay, we might need a couple of seconds to get caught up here, Mr. Eisenbart. And when I see questions, I will call on folks. Yeah, this is the first. So he's got 2 for us, which is page 53 and page 54, I believe. Yes, 53 and 54 of your packet if you're on your own PDF.
Actually, if you're going by the packet number, it's going to be the page 56.
Oh,
Page
yeah,
57.
I'm looking at the bottom of the page, yeah, but.
Yeah, that's the page of the document, not the.
All our technology, we haven't figured out how to reconcile the page numbers with the PDF numbers. So this is, we've got the, let's see, the project name is, the title, which is your fourth box down, is PC and MDT Replacement IT.
I have a general question. Is it reasonable to ask for the folks online to give us like the 10-second elevator pitch of the pieces? Because otherwise, if we're not intimately familiar, we're each going to spend
Yeah,
45
it
seconds
might
reading
be
through
for
them.
Mr. Eisenbar, but we've got some presentations later that have a number of projects, so that's going to be pretty cumbersome. Why don't we take 30 seconds to skim through these 2 pages? And if you hadn't had a chance to look at them yet, do that now. Joe, for the PC refresh, the 4-year refresh schedule seems pretty normal. Anything out of the ordinary or anything, is there just anything out of the ordinary for this just normal 4-year refresh for laptops that are coming due or computers that are coming due?
The only thing that I would add is typically this is funded at $125,000 annually. We added $100,000 to that because we have our police car MDTs that are part of this as well. And so we're taking that $100,000 each year to do the refresh on those as well. Those are ruggedized PCs for the patrol cars.
Were those previously in a different line item or a different request? Are we consolidating?
They were originally purchased in bulk several years ago, and this past year we replaced them again as a group, but we want to begin to fund this over the years so it's not a heavy hit at one particular year.
Got it.
Yeah.
I have a question. The 4-year cycle seems kind of typical for kind of professional use, but it seems like the public use computing is being thrown in the same category. And I mean, I personally have had computers last way longer than 4 years, and I can't imagine that the draw on a public use machine is all that intense. So it just seems like kind of a strange timeline to match the professional use workstations to the employees.
Could you, what are you referring to as public use?
Under the description of the first one, it says, the first sentence says, the workstation refresh program and provides replacement workstations for employees and public use computing areas. So I'm assuming that's like
Library
computers in the library, but I don't think people in the library are probably using certain programs that are going to be outdated in 4 years. I imagine it's mostly internet, Word document production, Excel. You could use a 20-year-old computer and use Excel.
Potentially, yeah. And those are listed in there just to be complete, but I don't believe those are replaced every 4 years.
Okay, if they're not replaced every 4 years, that's great to know, but it, I guess, is confusing to rank this as a topic when we're putting, a public use computer in the library in the same category as, employee computers and police computers. It seems like we're comparing apples and oranges to me.
Joe, do you have an idea of what the scale, like how many public use computers are included in this versus the number of employee computers?
It would be a handful, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure, like 7 computers in the library, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas, we're talking about 500 computers that are professional use in the for city users.
So is the idea just that replacing them all at once is more efficient from a management perspective?
We don't, I'm sorry, we don't actually replace them all at once. We try to get a quarter of them every year so that we're able to keep up with that as we go along.
All right. To me, that one seems pretty straightforward. Any further question? Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle.
No problem. About how many since this is a quarter basically of the computers being replaced, how many computers are we talking about?
It's around, and I don't know the exact number, but around 550 total. So we'll replace a quarter of those each year.
So about 125 or something in that neighborhood
Roughly,
is what
yeah.
this number represents.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So about $1,800 per machine. Is that?
Depends on the purchase. If we get bulk deals, we could do better. I don't have an exact number for you. We purchased a bunch of them earlier this year to beat the tariffs. So we got a better deal on those. But I can't tell you the exact amount per computer.
Okay. Other questions on the PC and MDT replacement? Okay. Questions on network development IT? Just give us a second here. I think this is maybe outside of the realm of expertise for most of us here. Noah.
Yeah, I'm just curious if you could tell us why the 2026 request is higher and then you go lower for a couple of years and then higher in 2029. Just give us a sense of what that cycle is.
Yeah, currently we have an aging network infrastructure. So we have equipment that's end of life. Some of it can't be supported anymore. We also have cabling that's 20 years old that needs to be replaced. And so we're in catch-up mode right now. So we have a pretty big spend for 25, working on putting some additional equipment at the PD to allow for failover. Next year in 26, we'll be targeting the service center and the rec center to upgrade cabling and equipment there to get equipment in there that will be serviceable for us for several years. And then in 27, we have a lighter load identified for replacement in 27.
Thank you.
I'm going to let folks just kind of keep skimming through for a second, and then if we don't have any more questions in the next minute or so, we'll cut you loose, Joe. Thank you.
Could you help me understand what the table that says financial impact of ongoing costs due to project program is? I see that it's all minor, but it's hard to understand what minor $5,000 is in comparison to the larger line items up top.
So for the minor, I mean, that's the lowest amount because essentially the financial impact is the spend itself. If that was the lowest one we could put there basically.
Joe, you talked about sort of some aging infrastructure in place, much lower need in 27. Are you categorizing all of this $436,000 as urgent and needing to happen this year, or is there any ability to push some of that to 27 and split between 26 and 27 this big expense?
It is pretty urgent. As I said, there's equipment there that's 20 years old. And we're running risk of failure there. So I would consider it to be urgent this year in 26.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to communications. Do we have somebody online, Nancy?
We have Lucia and Amanda online from our communications team to answer any questions.
Okay, so please give us a couple minutes to get to the right part of the packet. We're kind of split. The first one I'm seeing here is page, it's the wayfinding and placemaking.
6 or 9. 9.
There we go. Yep, 6 or 9. Thank you. 6 on the paper, 9 in the digital document. Okay, I have a question. There are some specific projects listed here about installing the message signs and some public art. But the funding request is sort of a flat 100K every year, which, so I'm kind of confused. Are we funding a project? Are we funding the wayfinding program? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Jenny had that definition earlier, but I consider it a program as it's an ongoing way to continually add wayfinding elements to the city. Currently, we have the RFP that went out for the bridge gateway art. We're looking to put some artwork on the underpasses into the city along Santa Fe, on Dartmouth, Oxford, and Camden. And again, we've got some community signs that we've installed, but we want to continue to add those and continue to add these elements. And then there will be a time where we need to replace and rehabilitate these elements too. So that's kind of the ongoing funding for this ongoing program.
Thank you.
I'm seeing what looks like mostly wayfinding items on here and signage, but the picture below is seemingly placemaking. Is there a placemaking project that's currently planned or envisioned in the next few years, and does that fall into the same 100K?
Yeah, they're kind of tied together, wayfinding and placemaking. So the bridge gateway art would probably fall more under the placemaking element, as it kind of defines Englewood as a place to those who drive along the I-25 Santa Fe corridor. And we are working on wayfinding elements to along Broadway and other areas in the city to put some signage to direct people to the city amenities. So that's kind of the wayfinding part, and then the placemaking are these like bridge gateway artwork pieces.
All right. Any other questions for the wayfinding and placemaking program? All right. We'll move on to the public art, which is on the next page. Could you just talk a little bit about the distinction between these two, the wayfinding and placemaking and public art?
Yeah, for wraps and crosswalks, really, this is I mean, they go hand in hand because they are a placemaking strategy as well. But really, this was an initiative from the Public Works Department, noticing that we had all of these traffic cabinets and crosswalks that we could have these creative campaigns surrounding. So really, it was creating a fund for this program so we can replace some of this and get some cool artwork out into the community.
Any questions on this one? The next one I have is page 51, neighborhood signs, 51 of the digital document, 48 on the page number on the bottom. And these are all these three projects are right next to each other in the packet.
I have a quick
Yeah, sorry,
question.
Michelle.
I've seen some of these neighborhood signs pop up recently, and so can you just give me a quick review of how what are the next signs that are going to go up, or what does this $30,000 represent?
Sure. I don't have the list of the neighborhoods right in front of me right now, but I believe we've installed these signs in 4 neighborhoods. I know Cushing, Hampden Hills, Bellevue, I think another one. So those neighborhoods have applied and gone through the process to get the signs. Next steps, we do have a list of registered neighborhoods, because that's step 1. The neighborhoods must register as a group, and then they can fill out the application. And we have a few more neighborhoods already in line, starting the process of talking to their neighbors about design choices and things like that. And then we'll work and install, I believe we want to do about 3 neighborhoods per year. I think it says 3 or 4 in here, I cannot remember, but like 3 or 4 neighborhoods per year until all of the neighborhoods have their distinct signage and signs and sign toppers in their neighborhood.
So if I'm sort of make a guesstimate, so it's about $10,000 for each sign or each neighborhood sign?
Yeah, I think they get 2 or 3 neighborhood signs and then 12 sign toppers. And then that's production and installation for those, roughly about 3 neighborhoods per year.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you said. For the sign and the neighborhood?
Production and installation.
Production. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
All right, any other questions on neighborhood signs? Let's go on to the new website platform. Quick question: has this already gone through a procurement? Like, has an RFP gone out to do this? Is this firm pricing?
Yeah, so we submitted a request for information early in 2025, so around January. We did a request for information. We got 5 bids back, and one of our top platforms came back with that quote of $100,000. So that is what we went with.
Great.
Is there a sense of how long the website will be considered up to date, I guess? Is it going to be 2031 and another $100,000, or is this expected to last longer? Obviously, we can't read the future, but just curious.
Yeah, so typically websites stay current roughly. You're expected to do a redesign every 3 to 5 years. For the platform that we're looking into, they actually include a free redesign. So as we're moving through this process, if in 5 years we want to update some things, we'll have a free redesign at our disposal. So it'll save us the extra money that it would cost in 5 years.
Other questions on this one? Okay. And then the last one is page 53, art in public places. Again, similar question compared to the other 2 sort of public art, wayfinding, placemaking. How is this one distinct?
Yeah, so this is specific to purchasing art pieces for the city of Englewood. And this is a long established public arts fund. started in 1998, and 1% of the capital improvement budget goes towards the Art and Public Places Fund. And again, it's for purchasing artwork for the city and just enhancing those spaces as best we can see fit with the sculptures or murals or any type of artwork that we deem for the Cultural Arts Commission.
Michelle.
So if I recall correctly, the part of the reason that this started is that there's every project has to have, what did you say, 1 or 2% devoted to art, public art, is that correct?
Yeah, 1%.
So then if it's paid for in each project, why do you need extra money here?
I believe it's taken, that 1% is taken out of a culmination of the projects that are available and then put into this fund. So this is showing what the fund will be year after year from what is projected with these capital projects.
I'm not sure I quite
From my
understand
understanding.
that, but okay.
Lucia, I can probably
Yes.
help answer this. I'm Christina Underhill. I'm the director
Thank you,
of Parks and
Christina.
Recreation. I oversaw the CAC for a while, the Cultural Arts Commission. Ultimately, it is taking all of the projects to get approved, and then the 1% is taken out automatically and given to the arts. And so the Cultural Arts Commission can utilize that funds for a variety of things like sculptures or murals or whatever it may be. It's not a lot of money, so that doesn't go very far. But there's things in here like a gymnasium curtain divider. I mean, we could put art on that, but it just raises the price. There's other projects in here that are listed that art wouldn't really come into that project for the public viewing. And so ultimately, we just take the total of all the projects for that year, and then the 1% comes out.
So so basically you're asking for $30,000, and so then there's extra money that's part of that 1% that is put all together to provide public art. Is that correct? Or no? Am I mixed up on this?
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe Brenda can help.
Yeah, that's kind of my question too, because I was on CAC too.
Yeah.
They have a budget. This is their budget.
This is their budget.
This is the arts budget.
Yeah,
okay.
correct.
So we're probably right.
So this is the 1% basically.
This is the one.
Yes.
Okay,
It's confusing.
it is very confusing. I'm just curious.
If the total capital projects is 7 million, why isn't this
So it's only
70,000?
from this fund. So
Only from
Fund
this
30.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The capital
So of
projects
that.
fund,
Okay.
it is a little confusing because
Got
they're
it.
all capital projects, but this is the fund it comes out of.
Got it. Carl.
The MOA left some art here in the city when they left, and we were supposed to maintain them. Is there a fund for that, or do we actually do that?
That's a great question. And MOA is still overseeing those art pieces. They gave an option for us to lease or have maintenance paid for, and the council at the time chose not to move forward. MOA has slowly been removing some of their pieces from the city and taking it to various locations that they're located at now. So ultimately, the city does not own any of the MOA art pieces or maintain them. They still do that.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on any of these communications projects? David.
I'd be curious just to know, is there any kind of a plan that talks about where the locations of proposed projects are going that we could see? I've seen a few, but not as many as I'd expect.
Lucia, do you want to talk about the strategic plan you're going to work on with CAC?
Yeah. So for the Cultural Arts Commission, we're currently working on an arts master plan. That way we can have the defined categories of art around the city and really focus on individual areas and trying to get art throughout the city in a more cohesive way. So we can make sure that all of the areas of Englewood are getting some art love. So we're working on that in 2025, hoping to have it out in 2026.
All right. Last call for any questions on these 5 projects. Great. Thank you very much, staff. I appreciate your time this evening. We're going to move
Thank you.
on.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Ms. Underhill, Director of Parks. First project here is page 11 of the digital document. Parks and Rec parking lot maintenance. Is there already sort of a prioritized list of which parks and yeah?
It's a seasonal inspection that we do, as you know, the roadways and parking lots. They may survive one season, but not the next. This year, we're focusing on Malley parking lot. Asphalt's not as cheap as it used to be. We used to budget this for $50,000, and we've had to raise that so we can actually complete a parking lot now. But our parking lots are well used.
Yeah. All right. Any questions on this one? Stephen, online?
No, I agree with her. Cost of pavement has gone up tremendously.
Yeah.
A quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brenda.
No, this is parking for just one rec center?
It's for all our properties that are parks and recreations. So it might be the rec center, Malley, any of our parks that have parking lots, which are quite a few. Like Bellevue Park has the largest parking lots, Centennial has 2 parking lots. And so annually we look at those parking lots to see if we're patching, relining, or actually replacing fully.
Right, Centennial Park. Where Waste Management Parks.
Carl.
The parking, well, the parks maintenance, how is it divided, the bonds with the capital?
So you won't see any of our bond projects listed in the capital projects. Actually, the bond is allowing us to, through our open space fund, which we're not covering tonight, or our conservation trust funds, we're able to use those funds for some of the other capital projects in our parks and recreation systems that don't hit this capital project fund or our public improvement fund. So they're very separated. And the bond has its completely own fund, so it doesn't mix at all.
All right. Anything else on parks parking lots? All right. Next one on the list is Broadway medians. This is south side of town.
Yeah, so this year we're actually completing 2 of the medians, and they did come in about 100,000 each. And so the hope is to replace all the medians on South Broadway over time here to improve those. They've aged significantly.
So do you foresee, I mean, we're through 2030 here. Do you foresee more years needed at the same funding requests after that?
I would guess no, but it's hard to say with North Broadway and how those age. I know EDDA's got a good partnership too, and they are doing some improvements as well. So we're utilizing both funds to do as much as we can.
Great. Carl.
EDDA, they just go up to Hampton, right?
Correct.
So the medians on Broadway are terrible. They really need some work. We need people to be driving down Broadway and see the medians and say, this is a place where I'd like to live. And we can't do anything about Hampton, though, can we?
Hamden is, well, we have improved a few of the medians on Hamden, but that is CDOT property.
Okay.
Amy?
Does this include, I guess it includes structure and plants and or lighting?
So this could include irrigation, plants, any other improvements that are needed. If there's structural issues with the median, we'd look at replacing those or repairing those. So it's kind of the whole median we look at, and the ones that we are doing this year on South Median, South Broadway, I believe those will be completed probably by end of summer, if not sooner. And so you'll kind of see what we're going with. That they're going to have a little art in the new medians on South Broadway. They'll be painted, so a little more color, more attractive with new plants and irrigation and all that.
David, go ahead.
I have a question just kind of conceptually about the medians. Obviously, the one picture has a lot of hardscape. I'm thinking about the one that's along Evans, sort of between Colorado and DU. There's heavily planted ones. They're a little taller, but they look great. Is there any reason that we couldn't have something that's more heavily planted as opposed to more hardscape? Is it way more expensive? Is it a safety thing?
That's a great question. It's both of those. It's safety and from a maintenance perspective, it's a lot more to maintain. Currently, we do all media maintenance in-house with our parks team. So we want to keep them safe, so less plants, less trimming, all of that. So we try to keep them kind of low profile, but looking nice, and that's the goal of the improvements.
Do you have a sense of like cost delta between something like this and the thing I was describing? Are we talking like 3 or 4x, or is it different?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm not sure exactly the difference, but ultimately, what the two medians we're doing this year are over $100,000. So the maintenance on that should be lower, so over time it won't cost as much to maintain.
Sorry. Go ahead,
Um, So last night's council meeting, council was lukewarm on the South Broadway improvements moving forward. Does that impact anything? Like, is this purely just maintenance that has to happen, plus the stuff that's already approved, the paint and things you described? Does this have any play with what council does or doesn't do with that South Broadway, redevelopment?
Good question. That's the redevelopment of South Broadway is a new topic. So we already have, like I said, we're already doing 2 medians this year. And if those are liked by residents and council, we'll probably do 2 more. So it is somewhat pending their decision and how they want to move forward with South Broadway. But our goal is to improve South Broadway to make it look nice and attract people to the businesses and the neighborhoods in that area.
Other questions? All right. The next one is Little Dry Creek at the Plaza.
I will add one thing on this. It doesn't state it in the project, but EDDA is committing a match to this project. We are in design currently. We did a design about 2 years ago. We're bringing that back. We'll be doing some public outreach this summer to get some input on what people like to see at the plaza. But like I said, EDDA is going to match this when we go into construction, hopefully in 26, 27.
Questions? All right. Let's go into emerald ash borer mitigation. Come on, Michelle, you got something here.
I'm always the one that talks about trees, right? So that's right. Well, just let me ask you a quick question. How many people have, because I think this is a sort of a public program, right? It's a partnership between Englewood and citizens. How many people have taken you up on getting the EAV shot? Injection.
Yeah, good question. It's a good program. However, not that many residents have taken advantage of it as of yet. I think last year we had maybe 20 applicants, but as the word is getting out that emerald ash borer is in town and it's very expensive to have to remove a tree if it gets infected, if you treat it, it's much cheaper. And we do have the grant program available, and this funding would be available to use for the grant. And that's how we have been running the program. Ultimately, the dollar amount may change over time as the trees are getting treated. and all of that, we may decrease the amount needed based off of the grant requests coming in. Not everybody has an ash tree on their property. And so we do have a new forester that is looking at all of that. We have a tree plotter program that tracks all our trees, including the residential areas too. So we'll get a better idea of actual ash trees in our city, and then we'll know moving forward what we would be looking at. If it's 50,000 each year, is it 20,000 each year, and tracking the use from our residents.
Yeah, and so since you have, just like Denver, you've got an inventory of basically of trees, but does your inventory include at least an idea of ash trees that are on private property?
We're getting there. That's part of the plotter program, the tree plotter program. We did all our public public trees and right-of-way trees and all of that. And so looking at, there's actually some cool AI programs that uses Google and can identify trees through that. And so it would let us know how many trees, ash trees we have in our city.
So would it be a better use of funds to, since you're getting there, at least you know, have identified some properties that have ash trees, would it make some sense to just contact those people and use some of the funds to do that rather than just sort of generally blast it out, hey, there's this program?
Yeah, that's a good idea moving forward. Once we have a better idea, it might be a mailer that we send out to homes that have ash trees. It's not to say that somebody will plant an ash tree and then years later they need to know. But yeah, ultimately we can do targeted marketing to those homes.
I work for a tree company, so that's why I'm asking so many questions. But yeah, it's devastating. I mean, Central Park, it's just, it's just so infected over there. And, that's the old Stapleton and everything. And they're just going to lose so many trees because ash trees are very, very common.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, thanks.
Carl.
With our arborists gone, if we get overloaded with treating the trees, could they contract it out?
We could definitely contract it out if we needed to, but many of our park staff have been trained on the treatment in emerald borer trees. Now, private citizens will have to contract their own people to come in. We just provide a stipend when they do that. So right now we're doing just fine with our own staff, as most have been trained.
And the 50,000 is going to be good for treating all the city's trees?
Yeah, when you treat them yourself in-house, it's a lot cheaper than using a contractor.
Yeah. Okay.
Other questions? Nope. Let's go on to last one here, library furniture. Next page. My only question here is commercial furniture, 50,000 doesn't go very far.
It does not. We asked for 50 this year, so we have 50 this year to use, and we're purchasing new furniture this year, but it doesn't go very far. So we're asking for another 50 to ensure we get our meeting rooms updated, all the public furniture out on the floor gets replaced, and new furniture brought in, something that's more IT friendly. People can charge their devices at the table kind of thing. Our tables are just wood right now without the option for doing that, so it could be more feasible.
Other questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Underhill. Appreciate it. All right. Now we're going to go to the big list. Yeah, I don't see a bottle of water over there. Yeah. All right. Victor, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
First project we're going to look at is alley maintenance. Page 19 of the PDF or page 16 of the bottom there.
What is the dust suppressant material?
I'm sorry?
What is the dust suppressant material?
Usually it's liquid mag chloride is put down, and that binds with the dust and holds it down.
Does this get funding from our tax? And the reason I'm asking is because I thought we were going to use the scrape off from the streets onto the alley. So does that qualify as gets outside funding?
No, that's actually separate. This is the actual maintenance of the alley when we have to go in and do more grading and maintaining existing alleys. This would also apply to alleys that we've already applied those millings. So what you're referring to are the millings. That is part of our annual mill project, and that is funded from partially the tax dollars plus a line item that we'll talk about later in here, our pavement maintenance by area.
I have a quick question.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
So you're asking, what is this bump in funding from 100,000 to 350,000? What does that signify?
Yeah, we do have an increase this year. We have a number of alleys that we need to go back in and regrade the V channel for drainage and get them ready for millings. We also have only a few because the millings are relatively new that we need to go back in and refix those as well and redistribute those millings and recompact them back down.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that if we asked Englewood citizens, they'd say, spend more on alleys, spend as much as you can on alleys.
It's a very common topic in public works.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, Stephen. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for this gentleman, I see the picture here. The shrubs seem to be really overgrown, and I always get a ticket from the city warning me that my alley needs to be cleaned before they apply all this product. I assume that every alley is treated the same way and before this product, because there's stuff growing all over the place. And I assume that the neighbors have to clean all that up before you guys apply the product, right?
Correct. Maintenance of the vegetation on either side of the alley is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner, whether it's homeowner or business. We'll send out notifications and coordinate with code as well.
Okay. I just wanted to be fair for everybody because I'm always having to run out and cut down the shrub.
And this work is targeted. It's not just on a rotating sort of area basis. This is going after the alleys that really need focused work now.
It's both. We have a rotation, plus we also keep tabs on what we call Q alerts. These are the reports that come in from residents. So we also coordinate with PD on areas that they may be frequent and they've noticed can be a challenge when they're responding to calls and things of that nature. So it's a little bit of both.
David, did you have a question?
Is there anything that can be done about the weeds in the middle of the alley? Because I've pulled out the weeds along my fence line a million times for the same reason Stephen mentioned, but it seems like the middle of the alley is the culprit of a lot of weeds thriving and then reseeding everything else.
Yeah, the millings generally take care of that. When we do the millings, the unpaved alley, the weeds are a challenge. We do collaborate with parks. We are hesitant to use pesticides or herbicides because we don't want that to get into the water system or maybe accidentally get on to adjacent property and affect those things. So the Public Works team does look to try and trim that area when possible.
Just one more quick question. Why is there, it says 2024 unaudited expenditure is blank. So can you give us an idea of what was spent in 2024?
I'd have to check the books and see. That may be due to some staffing level challenges that we had. We have also looked at bringing in an outside contractor to supplement staff in that case. Our streets team is one of the harder teams to maintain staffing levels with. That said, we are trending in the right direction now over the last few months.
So would you guess you probably spent 100 grand in 2024s in that neighborhood?
I would think so. We're probably pretty close.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Any others on alley maintenance? All right, next, pavement maintenance by area. My question here was just what's the bump of 30% in 2028, going from 750 to $1 million per year?
That's something we're going to continue to refine. We're expecting additional larger streets to drop below the pavement condition index where we need to go in and treat them and maintain them in mill. So that will continue to be refined as we move forward. We did just complete a new pavement rating condition analysis, and we'll be coming to council probably in June or July to present that information.
No.
So this is one of the ones I was asking Director Nolan about when she was up here. So you've got, for the 2025 budget, $500,000, but then for the 2025 year-to-date expenditures, $1.1 million. And I'm just trying to understand what that is, and if, like, I mean, if in fact that's, correct, which I'm assuming it is, then, like, why does it matter what number we give you if it just gets much larger anyway?
Yeah, and I apologize, I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me. So some of that is carryover from the prior year.
Okay.
For PIF and CIP funds, those funds stay in that fund balance unless the department says, hey, we don't need it anymore, or we're not using it. We want to make sure we give it back and it gets reappropriated to something that's being actively used. So it's this fund plus the sales tax that was referenced earlier, or what we use to pave our roads within the city. It's a combination of the two.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is it safe to say that you guys are already coordinated with water where they're fixing lead pipes?
Yes. Actually, this year we are currently trailing them in their zone 2, which is the almost southwest central, just west of Broadway. They are in that zone right now. We're going to be right behind them. Our pavement maintenance RFP will be going out shortly, and then they're going to jump to their zone 3. We're going to follow them into zone 3 and keep going that way. So we'll be a little out of step with our regular maintenance zones, and those are aligning, but we want to make sure we follow them and we're not in front of them.
My street in the Bellevue Park neighborhood was closed today for that work. So yeah, right where you were saying west of Broadway. Yeah.
Yep.
Carl.
When they do Union west of Santa Fe, that are going down from the Santa Fe to the bridge, that's traveled by, to put asphalt in there, I don't see that asphalt's going to work because of the heavy trucks that from the trash company there. In the summer, that's going to get hot, and they're just going to make ruts in the road, I would think. So is that going to have to be concreted? And if so, what's that going to, that's going to cost a lot.
Yeah, great question. So that's independent of this line item. That project is its own project. The design has been completed. What we did is we cored the existing road. We have a consultant we're working with on there. They do what they call axle loading calculations. So we collect traffic data, we look at the amount of heavy truck traffic, and we look at axle loading, and then that there's an analysis that goes in and it says this is how thick the pavement needs to be. Specific to that project, we are going to do a certain distance in concrete off of Santa Fe, not the whole way, but a chunk of it. And then we are switching to asphalt, but it is a very robust asphalt section, and taking into account exactly what you mentioned, the loading, the heat and all the other dynamics in that area to make sure it will last. That project, we're working on what's called the Subsurface Utility Investigation, or SUE, which is a state requirement to make sure we account for utilities that are under the road, especially since we have such a thick section of pavement that we're doing, including the rock underneath. We have to make sure all the utilities are clear. We don't want to bump into gas lines, power lines, water lines, things like that.
Is there any way possible to get any money out of waste management to do that? I mean, the damage on the road is so bad that I'm sure it's damaging their trucks. So they're probably going to want to get that fixed.
Yeah, they actually pay a tipping fee, and I apologize, I'm not overly well versed in it. This has come up with council in the past, and Director Ingalls from the Finance Department can speak well to it. We did, I believe, raise the tipping fee in the last 2 to 3 years, but that comes in, I think, to the general fund.
I know it's off topic, but he's talking about it. If we could, it's not an, if we could take that tipping fee and have it separated out of the general fund, that might help citizens absorb and not be so unhappy with what they're doing to the road. And also we'd have some one-to-one tie-in, just food for thought in the future. Plus, they are still using that parking lot. I know I always have a fit about it. But again, we're tying the service directly with the infrastructure. Just if you ever want to throw it out there again to City Council, I would be grateful.
Sure, thank you.
Other questions? Let's keep going then. Next. Street reconstruction.
So I'll just add here, this is full depth reconstruction. What we saw earlier, the previous line item was the maintenance. So that maintenance, think of it as slurry seal, mill and overlay. This is actually rebuilding the entire section of road. It is, when a road is beyond repair, this is where that line item kicks in. So we're going all the way down to the dirt and coming back up again.
I assume you have areas identified that need this for the next year?
Correct. We've identified several roads. We are doing going to be doing a pavement analysis this year, and then moving forward using the leftover budget from this year plus next year to rebuild the road in the worst condition and the most need of full depth reconstruction.
Is there always going to be a need for full replacement, or is this an issue of sort of deferred or delayed maintenance? I mean, if you keep maintaining things well, can a road keep lasting forever, or is it just at some point it needs to be replaced?
Great question. Materials have definitely changed and improved over the years. What we're seeing are the changes in material and vehicles. If you think about vehicles 15, 20 years ago, they were not as heavy and did not do as much damage to our road. Our roads were designed for that. So the vehicles have changed. Now the roads got to keep up. So to answer your question, eventually all roads will need some level of full depth replacement, and it'll depend on a lot of outside factors. The pavement maintenance extends beyond. So if we have a good base to start with, we can keep extending, and use those dollars more effectively than having to go in and say every 10 to 15 years rebuild it. The idea is that we extend these roads, 20, 30, 40, 50 years once we get a good section rebuilt. So deferred maintenance causes faster deterioration and pushes us into the road reconstruction territory much faster.
Thanks. Carl.
The paving is pretty much seasonal. How does the seasons affect the $500,000? Is it almost all spent in the summertime, or?
Yeah, it would generally be spent all in the summertime. So certain asphalt is not available. Once temperatures drop, certain plants will quit making certain kinds of asphalt. A prime example, you may have noticed Dartmouth Bridge has taken a moment to get some paving done. That's because the plants aren't making that asphalt. We are starting to get into the warmer season, which is fantastic, and that asphalt will become available here in the next few weeks.
All right, let's keep moving. Walk and wheel. 27 of the digital document, page 24 in the packet. Is this considered a program, or are there specific projects kind of lumped together here, or is this just an ongoing sort of year after year?
Yeah, this is kind of a hybrid. So the Walk and Wheel is a master plan that has projects inside of it. So our goal is to chip away at those projects year over year. So you could kind of think of it a little bit as both. For example, in 2024 and 2025, we're working on a section of the rail trail, which is identified in the walk and wheel. We took it to 30% plans. Those are being wrapped up now. We're going to be hunting for grant dollars, things of that nature to continue that project. But this particular line item will be to look for the next tier project and advance whatever's identified inside the walk and wheel plan.
Okay, talk to me a little bit more about that dynamic. You're through 30% design of a project and then looking for grant funds, but then asking for PIF funding.
Mm-hmm.
Is that pretty typical to be like leave those gaps and still need a current project to be funded from some other source rather than asking for that funding from here?
In this case, that project's pretty significant in cost, given the dynamics with the railroad being adjacent, some of the grading easements that are going to be needed.
Okay.
This funding could potentially be used for a grant match should we find a grant, but the construction dollars are going to be pretty sizable, and the 30% plans allow us to better estimate that. So
Sure.
Unfortunately, that's not 100% ready, or we may actually have a line item specific to the rail trail in the project to advance it beyond the 30%.
Thank you. David?
As part of this program, talking about widening sidewalks by chance, and is there a target minimum width? I ask because the vast majority of the sidewalks in my neighborhood, you can't walk next to somebody on. They're too narrow, which suggests that if you're in a wheelchair, it's similarly difficult. And I'm just curious what the thoughts are, because I realize you have two options: narrow the road or take private property, but just curious if that's part of this.
Yeah, I would say I'll need to double check. I believe a few targeted corridors are part of it. Specific to narrow sidewalks in general, the city's currently working, or Public Works is working with the city attorney's office on an updated ADA transition plan. And that will identify sidewalks and the priority to widen sidewalks among many other facilities within the city when it comes to ADA accessibility. Generally, ADA, I believe you have to be 48 inches, 36 around a fixed object for sidewalk width.
Do you know if it will encroach into private property, or will it be a situation where you could narrow the streets by a foot?
It would be specific to each street. What we would do is survey the street and to try and determine where the right-of-way is. I have seen both be used depending on the condition of the street and the width. We have some streets in Englewood where you can actually do parking on each side plus 2 lanes, and you still have an extra 2, 3, 5 feet. In that case, moving into the road may be an option. There's obviously cost implications that'll have to be taken into account. We also look at the right-of-way, and then there's always the discussion, homeowners are not always familiar with right-of-way and what that means. So it could mean that a foot or two behind the sidewalk is right-of-way and actually belongs to the city. However, it may not be viewed that way by homeowners, and we have to look at the whole corridor when we're looking at those things.
All right, other questions? Walk and wheel. Noah?
Sorry, this is, I think, more of a big picture question. So in trying to understand, or maybe not even a question, maybe just more of a request or suggestion. In trying to understand all of this, I'm on the city's Public Works page on the website. Some things link over to Englewood Engaged, some don't. There's like a Public Works specific project page. If you pull up the project map, it currently looks like all of Broadway is a road closure, which I'm pretty sure is inaccurate. I think the website needs some attention so that people can get a better sense. And I think it would help us, but it would also help just the public to, have a sense of what's been done, what's queued up, what's happening right now. Like the infrastructure is there on the website, but doesn't appear to be kept up to date. So it's making it hard to kind of, piece together from these very high level descriptions, like what's happening and what's planned because of that.
Yeah, I'd recommend, we'll look into that. Thank you very much. The Englewood Engage page is kept up to date with active projects. Project managers generally are in there monthly providing updates on all the projects. I'm not sure where you're seeing the Broadway close. We'll take a look at that. There is a permitting active GIS, and so we can take a look at that. They may have a lane closed. Generally, you can click on it and see details. But we'll take a look at all of that.
Yeah. So on the Public Works page itself, there's a link that says road closures and detours. And when you click on it, all of Broadway is red for road closure indication
Yeah.
on there. I think the other thing though is that like not all of these things are on Englewood Engaged as projects necessarily. So like the like you said, the walk and wheel plan is a master plan with projects within it. But I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, that the walk and wheel plan has its own page on Englewood Engaged.
It does not.
collectively?
Englewood Engaged are active projects that are under construction or design. The Walk and Wheel is a study, and it's available on the city's website along with other master plans. There's a webpage that has all of the master plans, including the Walk and Wheel, which includes I think it's a 2022 update, is all there together on those master plan website.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, questions on this one? Let's go to the next. Concrete utility.
And just real quick, that one is the city share contribution to the concrete utility.
Yes.
Concrete utility is an enterprise fund. We pay this every year. And the concrete utility funds are used for sidewalk replacement, handicap ramp replacement, if damaged, and things of that nature, cross pans.
All right, I'm going to keep it moving unless there's questions. Okay, let's go to concrete program. Oh, Amy.
Can you give me an example of what the new standard, like on an ADA ramp, what that new change is?
Sure. So current requirements are much what I'll call flatter when it comes to slopes for ADA ramps. The big thing that we see are the landing areas. They require, I believe it's 2% or less. So it's a relatively flat landing area for accessibility and wheelchairs, and also includes the detectable warning panel. So you'll see the bumps kind of at the front. That's the detectable warning panel.
Can you give me an idea of how many more ramps need to be done in the city, or what percentage basically of
That,
has been done? Because at some point, we should be done with this. We should have all of installed on every curb, but.
correct.
And then they change the requirements.
Well, yeah, but ADA's triggered by more construction at that site. But anyway, so when are we going to have all of the ramps installed? Do you have an idea?
That's a great question. I'd have to check in with the team and get back to you. I would say we're more than 50% of the way through, but we do have a lot of ramps. And almost every intersection's got at least 2 or more. I mean, and then you get signalized intersections, and they come with other things. We have to do ADA upgrades to the traffic signals to match. So as we move through the ADA process we're working on with the city attorney, that's going to help us define high priority areas and where we're going. But we do have an inventory of all the ramps that we've done and the ramps that are not done inside the city's asset management GIS, and we can get you that number.
Well, that's good. At least we're 50% or something like that there. That's good.
Other questions? All right, signal equipment upgrade and replacement.
And just real quick on that one, I'll just add a comment that as you drive around the city and you see traffic signals, you'll see what we affectionately refer to as the stovepipe traffic signals. They kind of come up and they're like a crook as they come over the road. Those traffic signals are probably 50 years or older. They do not meet current ASTM standards. We've had them inspected for damage and wind fractures in the welds. So we do have a number that we need to replace, and we try and prioritize those based on the structural analysis.
Brenda.
So you would say that they're at the end of life, basically?
Yes, they are at the end of life.
Carl.
Seems like we keep bumping the signal price down on that every year, but it's got to be really getting bad. And like you said, some of them are getting really old and they need to be replaced. So I hate to bump this again and then really we have to have a safe signal system on all our street intersections. So it's if we get really desperate, we're gonna have to come up with money somewhere. So I don't know if we'll bump this again or what, but somewhere along the line, it's just got to be done.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. I wouldn't disagree with you that the longer maintenance and replacement are delayed, the more critical and urgent it'll become as these pieces of equipment age. So.
All right, let's keep going. Road and bridge maintenance materials. Yeah, go ahead, Brenda.
As far as safety, is this a minor benefit or does this improve safety?
The road and bridge materials?
Yeah.
From a safety perspective, I would say it's probably relatively high. This is the material we use to fix potholes, crack seal. So if you think about road repairs that are needed quickly, this is the material that our streets team uses to go out and fix the roads.
Actual expenditures in '24 was $30,000. Just talk about the difference there.
Yeah, it just depends on if we have to use a contractor, again, staffing levels, and then kind of what we find in the road. I will say, I'm going to knock on wood saying this, we have been proactively using what's called hot mix when we do potholes, so the pothole patches last much longer. Past practice was to use something called cold mix. Cold mix, when you get temperature fluctuations, it basically just pops out of the hole. It's a extremely temporary fix, whereas hot mix is a more permanent pothole repair.
Can I ask a question? This may be off topic, but it sort of ties into this particular item. Every once in a while, I find that there's a spot in the road that's been patched with dirt and rocks, and then eventually, especially going up and down Dartmouth, but now they've been filled in with like you said, the hot patch or something like that. But what is going on when we still have that dirt and rock?
So currently, the lead service line project is replacing lead service, and depending on the roadway and their materials, they are backfilling with what's called native material, so dirt and rock, until they come back and patch it. And that's a utilities program, and we're currently working with them to make sure they expedite permanent patching.
Okay, so when it sits there for a while with that dirt and rock, I'm guessing that there's still more lead stuff, lead pipe that needs to go on, and that's why it's hanging out, or is it because of like you said, the materials aren't being, made at that time?
Yeah, completely speculating is that's a utilities project. I would suspect they're having either trouble getting materials or the patching crew is running behind.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
How many bridges does Inglewood have?
That's a great question. I do not know the number off the top of my head, but we are, it's a separate line item in here. You'll see bridge repairs coming up, and that number is higher this year for the request in 26. Getting a little bit ahead, but we are due to do an analysis on the bridge conditions, which is why that number's higher. In addition to a bridge that's been identified under Broadway that we need to repair as well.
So this is another kind of big picture question for you. So I just went through the spreadsheet and highlighted all the things that were roads, alleys, bridges, traffic signals, like not sidewalks or any of the other stuff, but the stuff that's, you know, for cars. And it's over $5 million, and we're supposed to get to $7 million for the whole thing. And so I'm just curious, like, where would you reduce some of these numbers if, like, you know, we need to make room for other things?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I might say to look at reducing uniformly across the board because they're all kind of high priority. I mean, they're all maintenance, as you've touched on, and they're ongoing maintenance. And failure to maintain ends up costing us more down the road. So it's obviously a little bit of a balancing act in trying to make our infrastructure last as long as it can and repair it and maintain that safety aspect. So, yeah, it's really difficult to go in and say any particular one to look at reducing. Carl touched on earlier, you know, we have cut the signal equipment in the past. It might be worth, and just a thought, looking at what we cut in past years and maybe not consider cutting that this year and kind of spreading that around a little bit so we take care of certain things and we're not, for lack of a better term, always picking on one project to cut. So just a thought maybe. You're welcome.
All right, other questions? That was road and bridge maintenance, neighborhood traffic calming program.
So I will say for this one, for everyone's consideration, the RFP for development of the program is on the street right now. We're expecting proposals back from consultants before the end of the year, and then we'll be developing, and then this money is for implementation of identified traffic calming projects. And since the program is just coming out, we anticipate after 2026, we'll be looking to adjust that budget appropriately based on number of requests and costs and kind of what's coming in.
David?
Could you give us a couple quick examples other than zebra stripes? What are the sort of 5 go-to strategies that we can conceptualize of how this would take effect?
Sure, they could run quite a gamut. They could be radar speed limit signs. They could be flashing stop signs. We are potentially looking at deflection. Could be what's known as speed cushions. You know, again, if approved and coordinated with the fire department, that's raised speed bumps with cuts so the fire trucks can go through. Don't have to slow down, but everybody else does because your wheelbase is a different width. Could be narrowing of the roadway, chicanes. Could be striping. Stripe the road a little narrow, give it that visual effect of a narrow roadway. So there are quite a few. The program that we're going to be working with the selected consultant will help us identify, based on data, what the speed challenges are, which tool in our toolbox, out of all the ones I mentioned and more, I'm sure, is appropriate to address the speed concern.
I'll just throw out my 2 cents. The flashing signs don't seem to help, but I sure tend to lock in and look at the flashing while I'm driving past it. So I think it's more of a distraction than a traffic calming measure, at least in my neighborhood.
Sure. Thank you for the feedback. I will say we're replacing those. The current ones don't log data. The new ones will log data, and we will be sharing that with PD. So if we happen to see people going by at a speed every day at 10 a.m., we'll make sure, hey, PD, you might want to go do some enforcement around 10 a.m. around here. People think it's a game to see how high they can score on the radar sign. So we are looking to improve the functionality of our current radar signs.
Great. All right, let's go into bridge repairs.
I touched on that one a minute ago, the reason why the increase for 26. And if you're wondering where the bridge is on Broadway, it's actually Little Dry Creek. It's considered a bridge where it goes under Broadway. It's not a culvert, and it needs some repairs. Plus, we need to redo our assessment of all our bridges, which is why the number's higher for 2026.
Questions? All right, freight elevator.
Sorry, I just thought of a question on the last one. You said Little Dry Creek, where it goes under Broadway, is a bridge that we have to maintain.
Correct.
But then Broadway itself is CDOT, right?
Broadway over 285 is a CDOT bridge. This is just south of that.
Okay.
Broadway outside of that bridge is a City of Englewood asset.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome. On the freight elevator, so this is the freight elevator at the Civic Center. A lot of our internal departments use that to move equipment up and down between the floors. This is to repair that, the guts of it, essentially, and bring it up to current standard. The cost estimate is based on staff working with our current service provider to understand what components need to be replaced to make it more reliable. Currently, it breaks down maybe once a month or more, and we have to have it repaired. So it's really at the end of its life that at least the guts are, and we're looking to repair that with this item.
Is this a full modernization of that elevator?
Not full. We're not replacing the car. This is the components that operate it.
So if I remember last year, when we were going through this process, one of the things we said was we kind of want to avoid big expenditures on this building.
Correct.
Is it just that bad that it needs to come through as a tier 1 at this point?
Given the rate that it's breaking down and the critical nature that it serves for various departments, whether it's IT or public works, facilities, to move equipment between floors, it unfortunately is starting to become pretty critical.
Is it so can the other elevators not serve this purpose because they're not rated for the capacity? Or is it just this is the one that's doesn't have the nice finishes in it? My question ultimately being, could we use a regular elevator for these purposes, or are there specific like heavy weightlifting operations that need to be done with this one?
It's a little bit of both. This one's also much larger, and you're not competing with folks trying to go to the library or go to court. If you wanted to move a desk, you're going to have a pretty difficult time getting a desk into any of our other elevators. The freight elevator is almost 2.5 or maybe even larger than a regular elevator.
Sure.
It's designed to move those big pieces of equipment, and you don't have to worry about scratching the finish. Of course, you don't want to damage furniture and stuff, but it's really intended to handle those heavier weights and those bigger objects to move them between floors. And it's not available to the general public, so you're not competing with folks that are trying to come here for other city services.
And is this number pretty fixed? Like there's been a procurement, or we know this is the amount that's needed?
We have talked to the vendor. We're waiting on an official quote from them. We have not received that yet.
Okay.
Were these elevators part of the building when we took it over?
It's a great question. From my personal experience riding the freight elevator, I would say yes. I'm happy to give a tour later if anyone's interested.
This elevator right out here, I've never seen one that slow. That thing is really, really slow.
You should try the employee elevator on the other side. That's slower than the other ones. And we do maintain them. I mean, we have our inspections and meet state requirements on all our elevators, including the freight elevator, which is one of the reasons why it has failed state inspection and we've had to do repairs, and in addition to just breaking down doing repairs.
If you had that elevator in the Empire State Building, it'd take about an hour and a half.
That's fair.
Other questions? We good? Let's keep moving. Questions? This one seems pretty straightforward. All right, great. I guess that same question, has this already been priced out, bid, and
It's been priced out. I don't believe we received, again, the formal bid, but we have asked vendors, what is it cost to replace this item?
Okay.
We've also been asked, why is this in Public Works budget instead of Parks? And that's because Public Works includes facilities maintenance, and we maintain the facilities, and this is one of those components that's heavily used because it's always being moved up and down, and we maintain the motors and the cabling and things of that nature.
all right. Let's move on to security cameras. I think, again, talking about this building, how much of this project is specifically for this building?
I would say probably 75% between this building, the garage, and the plaza out front. And those cameras are monitored by our Allied Guard security. And PD has access to them as well.
Who are they monitored by?
Allied, our contract security service, and PD has access to them as well.
Will the added cameras be another allied person?
No, there's no, currently no correlation between number of cameras and Allied staff. They have a screen that has all the various cameras. You can select it and it'll enlarge it for you. And then if PD's called, they can access them and bring them up on their screen at dispatch as well.
It notes expansion and replacement. How much of it are new cameras covering areas that are not currently monitored, and how much of this is for replacing older cameras?
Yeah, a good question. I'll double check with the team, but I do believe that's a 75-25 split.
75 expansion, 25 replacement?
Correct. Yeah. A lot of our cameras are relatively new. It's a system called a Vigilon. You'll see them, they're more kind of like a pancake shape. It's not the old school type cameras you used to see.
Other questions? All right. Facilities and operations. No.
So I might have asked this last year. Why is this in the capital requests and its facilities and operation?
Yeah, this has been a reoccurring approach that we've taken for capital replacement, because these are generally capital items that need to be replaced over time as opposed to maintenance. We do have a maintenance line item that's general fund for facilities, and this one is more the capital replacement costs for various components throughout the city.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's the operations word that really throws me, because that's antithetical to the rest of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that feedback. We'll try and make that more clear.
And so is this driven by sort of an ongoing capital needs assessment of the facilities? Like what's the process there to identify a prioritized list of improvements?
Yeah, great question. So it goes into service tickets and end of useful life. For example, we do have a couple of pieces of equipment, air handlers, that they're beyond their end of useful life, but we don't have a lot of problems with them. So we're kind of maintaining what we have seen, similar to our discussion on traffic signals a little bit, are pieces of equipment that are getting older. When they do break, we can't find parts. And that's becoming more and more of a challenge.
Big chunk this year. Can you give us an idea of things that are on this list?
Yeah, the big things on the list are really the HVAC and some of the electrical that's going to have to be upgraded. If you look at some of our electrical systems, not particularly here, but some of our other facilities around like the service center, if we go to do certain upgrades, we're going to have to upgrade the panel and all the wiring because it doesn't meet current electrical building code requirements.
You listed energy audits in here, or any energy audit implementation, so I'm assuming that's implementing some things recommended by audits. What are some of those projects?
There are some that are listed that are not being done under that project. They range from lighting efficiency to water efficiency in various buildings throughout the city. Again, we're very cognizant of this building and trying to be very tactical when we're replacing things. As discussed just a moment ago, we don't want to spend a bunch of money if we're not going to be here very long, which again, we don't know. So we're just keeping that constant communication open.
Along with, talking about all of these things for this building, and this is different for every system, but how feasible is it to be planning for, okay, we'll install this new camera here. We want this to be a camera that we could take down and put somewhere else. Is that ever done? Is it reasonable to do? I know in sort of a large operation like that could be difficult, but can you talk to me about are there any possibilities like that?
Great question. So it's going to be specific to each line item. I would say cameras are definitely something where it'd be considered. If you think about and I'm not saying this is the situation, but if we were to sell a building that had cameras on it versus we took them with us, I don't think that's going to impact the overall cost of the building for sale. Yeah. Cameras are relatively easy to move. It's the wiring. We'd probably leave the wiring behind. Mm-hmm. We'd have to put in new wiring, but the guts, the camera, and the servers that run them, we would probably take those for sure. If you think of things like HVAC units, those are pretty specific to the building, the load, the ductwork, the demand, and those kinds of things would be very difficult to relocate. So it's going to depend on each need. Just as another example, we just replaced the door on the southern entrance, the ADA door. It was sticking and it wasn't locking. Not a huge expensive item, but that was an immediate need because it wasn't functioning correctly. Plus it's ADA and we need to make sure we're accessible, but we would not relocate, do something like that in that case either.
Okay. Brenda.
I didn't hear did you the city center maintenance, what is that by itself?
Sorry, from which standpoint?
For this building, the maintenance to keep it up for a year is how much?
Yeah, it would ebb and flow based on the issues and the demands. The biggest thing we see in this building, HVAC, that failures in some of the vents and the solenoids that allow more air, less air. Lighting in this building is always seems to be a thing. We have light bulbs that burn out regularly. I mean, it's an older building. The freight elevator, from a maintenance perspective, is another big one. Plumbing is a big one. Some of our plumbing, with consideration of the water, the plumbing clogs on a regular basis. We have to have it snaked and things of that nature. So there's a lot of maintenance in the building. A lot of it is done in-house, except for the bigger stuff.
Is the solar still active?
Yes, the solar is on the roof and currently active. And that's Amoresco.
sorry to bump back to the freight elevator. You said about once a month it needs to be repaired. What's the typical cost of those repairs?
It would depend on kind of what's going on with it. They range from 5 to 15,000.
We were on facilities and operations. Any other questions? I'm sorry. Oh, Amy, sorry.
I've got a question with the security camera to the electrical. So when the security camera, does that include what electrical upgrades you would need, all encompassing, or?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that line item for security camera is everything that needs to support it. Usually there's a Cat 5 or Cat 6 Ethernet cable for the video streaming. Sometimes that will supply the power to the cameras. These bigger cameras sometimes require a separate 12-volt feed, and that would be all included.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go to ADA compliance projects.
Yeah, on this one, this is more kind of internal to buildings throughout the city, our various assets. We are looking at some ADA things that pop up where we get special requests in the community, could be out on the roadways. And as I mentioned earlier, we are working with City Attorney's Office on the transition plan. So we do anticipate that being done this year, and then projects that are identified in there to pull from this budget line item.
Do we get grants for ADA stuff?
Yes, we do have the specific ADA or the ramp replacement project line item, but we do get requests, what I'll call out of sequence from that. And we get other ADA requests in the city for ADA compliant traffic signal push buttons. So they actually talk to you and tell you when to cross the road. It could include things like at the rec center, we put in an ADA compliant, call it portable lift. So like a mini elevator to go between floors and things like that.
All right, let's go into security, civic center, and rec center.
And I'll just note on this one, this is physical security. So this is locks, door, if we have security challenges, things physically basically in those two buildings.
Questions? All right, service center building 1. And we're talking about just this building, this picture?
Correct.
Okay.
Just this building. Yeah, we have a number of aging infrastructure out there. And this is, service center is a shared asset. Parks is out there, public works facilities, utilities, the police department. There's quite a number of teams that are out there using various buildings and spaces. And this is one of those buildings that is shared among a number of teams. And between the roof and the walls, it is coming to the end of life and becoming difficult to maintain and repair and keep everything inside it.
And this is I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say this is demo and replacement for 400,000?
Yep. I don't know the square footage, but we have a similar kind of Kwanzaa hut out there that we put in, and that's what we're proposing, something similar here. So it provides shelter from the wind, rain, and sun. We are able to have electrical in there and lighting. Electrical is important if we have, I'm not saying we will, but if we have vehicles that need heaters, you can plug those vehicles in and it keeps them warm in the winter.
Will that be used for snowplow storage, and how many snowplows would go in there if it is?
This one I don't believe is going to be used for snowplows. We currently have room for all our snowplows to be indoors during winter months if we need to plug them in. We also preload salt, sand, what we call ice slicer, the material we put down. We'll load that up before an event, put the vehicles into a covered building, plug them in, and that way we're ready to roll as soon as the snow starts to fly.
Noah.
Can you give me a sense of what it would mean to delay this particular project? So we talked at the very beginning about this being a year where we don't have carryover to, have a larger budget. Well, what would it mean for the departments using this building to potentially push this out till we had a little more room to work with?
If we were to push it out, it just means we'll need to find money for repairs and try and do more repairs in-house. One component that we will definitely need to outsource if it becomes critical, not saying it is, any structural challenges that we see, if the walls are not in the best of shape or if the roof has anything other than typical maintenance challenges, we will need to go to an outside vendor to do those kinds of repairs.
So the one-time financial impact is 400,000, but that's just for one building, correct? You have multiple buildings going up?
There are, further down in the list, you'll see a tier 2 and a tier 3 building. So there are 3 buildings on the list. This one was identified by the Public Works team as the most critical for replacement, and it's just this building.
Brenda.
What is your total budget ask for all of Public Works for 2026? You know offhand?
PIF and CIP, or Public Works as a whole? Like
Public
general
Works
fund and
is
everything?
not including, but just capital. PIF and SIP, yes. Do you know?
I do not know. I will get that for you, though.
No, it's not important. It's just, it is always a big budget, and I always
It is.
want to budget it. And I always want to, because they're all very important things. I am dismayed, I'm just going to say this as a comment, that we couldn't, even though facilities oversees some of the parks buildings, that, we couldn't have thrown that into the bond, because one, they're needful things. They have to have things. And that would have helped. We did get over the hump. It got voted in, but it would have helped. And two, that it would have alleviated some of this ask. I'm just saying. I know it's your kingdom, it's her kingdom. I get it, but nonetheless, it's aggravating having gone through that and trying to convince voters to spend. Christina started at 50 million. And now we're at, I think she voted in 42 million. What's another 100,000 in this stuff that would have at least alleviated this, I'm saying. But this hurts because you really do need a lot of, I think we blow off the service center just about every year, don't we?
I would have to go back and look. I would say that
right.
may be accurate. Yes.
Yeah, we really have. And I hate to see it happen again, but thank you. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, thank you.
Total ask from Public Works in 26 was 11,745,000.
One day.
All right. Any other questions for Victor while he's here? I think we went through everything that's on the urgent list. No? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for all the feedback. I've got a couple of takeaways. I'll get the number of ramps we've done, the number of ramps we have outstanding. We'll look at the Broadway closure on the GIS map as well as the website, the number of bridges, and then you beat me to it on the PIF and CIP calculation. Thank you. Didn't have my computer with me in my spreadsheet. So.
Can I ask one just general question? This little box that's down here on the right-hand side, the financial impact of ongoing costs due to project/program, every single one it's in this minor category. Why do we have this box? If everybody marks it in the minor less than 5,000. or greater than 5,000?
Yeah, I will just comment, it's probably worth discussing with finance and for the departments, not
Okay.
you guys, unless you're obviously willing to. From the department perspective, if there were no ongoing costs, we really don't have any other box to mark except for that one or the revenue positive, which these projects are not revenue positive for Public Works.
Right.
So we expect some level of maintenance. The building example, we'll probably be in there changing light bulbs. We could have some insulation or something that might need an adjustment, or a garage door. There'll be some level of maintenance every year. And certainly in the beginning years, it'd be way less than 5,000, but that's the lowest category that we can select on the form.
Yeah, well, and it's not just Public Works, all of them, I think,
Sure.
at least that I scrolled through, have that same line checked off. I'm like, well, why do we have this thing? So it's not really a question for you, but I should have asked it at the very beginning, probably.
Well, thank you for the feedback. I'll circle back with Jenny and Director Ingalls and Finance and bring that up as a conversation piece and see.
Well, it's just that, I'd like to see something that's useful rather than just everybody marks that box. And I don't know what that would be, but for future, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah. No, and I think, last year at least there was a survey about improvements, but perhaps something more of maybe a working session or workshop or something to really talk through. Because as much as we want this to be useful, I think staff spends much, much more time having to fill this out and having to go through these. So we wanted to certainly work for them, but give us the information that's helpful for us. Yeah. So maybe something more than just a survey this time. All right. Thank you, Victor.
Yeah. Thank you very much, y'all. Have a great afternoon.
All right. With that, we can move on to staff's choice. Brian.
I've got nothing tonight.
All right.
Oh, but I do.
Oh, hi, Nancy. Thanks.
I just we didn't ask the chief to be here this evening, but you do have one tier 1 project to consider, and it's the police body cam. So please review that in your packet when it comes back out to you. As far as your tool, the next steps will be, I will send that all out to you again, and I will need those completed and returned to me by Tuesday evening, so that I can compile everything and get it sent back out to you in your packet on Thursday. Then please come with your pencils sharpened, and if you have questions between now and Tuesday that you think of, please email those to me. I can get those to the directors and get those flipped around pretty quickly. But yes, as Jenny said, there's $7 million available, and you have $9 million of tier 1 requested projects. So that's all I had.
All right, thank you. Just a reminder to all the commissioners, please just put some time on your calendar to spend with this. It's really helpful if everybody's taking a good look at this before we get into the meeting and just in discussion.
Quick question. I may have missed this, Nancy. Did you say we have to have that filled out by a certain date?
Yeah, I'll send you all an email tomorrow, but I'll need those back by Tuesday.
This coming Tuesday.
5 would be great. And then I can compile because I have to cut and paste and do all of that.
Yeah.
And get that back out to you on Thursday.
Great.
And while we're going through this process, should we consider what the staff has ranked things? Because they vary basically from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but then some of them are in the 60s and things like that they have prioritized. Should we be looking at that as well?
You can, but this is really planning commission's decision on how you're ranking them. If you want to look at that and see how staff, it wasn't all directors. There were different staff members that went through these projects and ranked them. So that's an individual.
Okay. Like one of them that was really ranked high was the locks around, just the hardware locks on doors and things. It was like in the 60s or something like that.
Brian, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just going to say that if you guys do send questions to Nancy, make sure you send them just to Nancy and I, and don't include the commission, and then we will make sure and get all the answers out to everybody.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
Emailing back and forth can cause some issues.
Yeah. Good point. Good reminder. Thank you, Brian.
All right. Anything else from staff? We will go to attorney's choice.
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
All right, thanks. And commissioner's choice, let's just start on the right end with Carl and we'll go down the line. Commissioner's choice? Nothing? All right. Nothing? Nothing. Nothing from me. All right. With that, we adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Well done this evening.